The New York Islanders score a badly needed 3-2 overtime win over the Dallas Stars. We have our key takeaways from the game. Plus, are the Islanders really thinking of trading Brock Nelson? We've got all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. We have got a lot to get to on today's show. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question for us, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can send us an email at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's always great to hear from you and talk Islanders hockey, game time, or anytime. Nice win for the New York Islanders. They beat the Dallas Stars in overtime 3-2. Nice when they actually get a dub in OT for a change. And I have to say, there were some definite positives in this game. Obviously, some negatives as well. But let's start with the positives. The line of Horvat, Barzal, and Nelson that Patrick Waugh put together definitely showed that they are dangerous and they can put points on the board. And yeah, okay, the only thing they actually did on the scoreboard was the overtime game winner, and that's 3-on-3. So Nelson wasn't out on the ice at the time, but that line in this game totaled 13 shots on goal, and that was certainly good. Now, the fact of the matter remains that the other 9 forwards on the team combined for just 12 shots on goal over the course of the entire game. So that's sort of the double-edged sword of putting arguably your 3 best offensive players. In fact, I don't even know how arguably it is to put your 3 best offensive players on the ice together as your top line. They are dangerous. They will create scoring chances. They may make each other even a little bit better than they have been. But that leaves the rest of your team on a Islanders club that we already have acknowledged does not have enough scoring depth. It creates a problem when it comes to the other 3 lines and whether or not they have enough offensive firepower to get the job done. So, it's a good news, bad news thing. It is a gamble, and it is really an attempt to create a super line or a very dangerous line to make up for the fact that this team, as it is presently put together, does not have enough scoring depth to really compete. Now, some other good signs, obviously, Kyle McLean getting on the scoreboard, scoring his second career NHL goal. And this was great. It was one of those, you go to the net, there was a rebound and a scramble, and McLean puts the puck home. Great to see him get the job done. And I think I am really starting to come to the conclusion that Kyle McLean is good enough right now to play in the NHL on a regular basis. Now, again, what has he played? 8 games for the New York Islanders so far. I'm not ready to anoint him as the second coming here, but I think it's safe to say he has, done his job as a fourth line center and deserves another opportunity to get, more ice time and more game time as we go forward. I think this team is better off with McLean and Cizikas in the lineup than with Wahlstrom. For whatever reason, Wally's still not panning out. Big game for Ryan Pollock, a goal, an assist, and 2 points. Always good to see him contributing offensively. And boy, when he can do that, that is always a bonus for this team, and you love to see it. Ilya Sorokin, solid in net, 30 saves and 32 shots. And again, defensively, the Islanders limiting their opponents to the 32 shots on goal. And you got to remember, we did play almost 3 minutes of overtime, so you got to add a little bit to it. And again, overall, solid play by the goaltender, and the Islanders need consistently good to great goaltending from Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov if they're going to win consistently. So great to see that coming from this team. And just, again, overall, a solid performance. Ryan Pollock, in addition to the goal and the assist, he led the team with 5 blocked shots, 4 for Alexander Romanov. So, again, you like seeing that. And how about Cal Clutterbuck? 7 hits in just 8 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time. So Clutter doing his job and making his mark on this game. And that was certainly great to see. But let's focus right now on that game-winning goal, because while Bo Horvat scored the goal on a very nice one-timer, it was the play of Mathew Barzal that created that goal and made that possible. And, you've heard me, everydayers, talk about Mathew Barzal, that when he's good, he'll create magic with the puck and set up his teammates or score himself and really do things creatively that 95%, maybe more, of the other players in this league cannot even think about doing, let alone executing it. When he's off, he'll skate and hold the puck a little too long and turn it over, and the result is often problematic or even ugly. Well, this goal, Barzy, was highlight reel Barzy. He held possession of the puck, skated around some players, kept the puck shielded from his opponents, and just did a great job of making that game-winning goal possible. So kudos to Mathew Barzal for making that play and getting the job done there. Barzy with a pretty job of stick handling, of changing directions, of shielding the puck from the defender, and then a pinpoint pass to Bo Horvat, who finishes the one-timer, and voila, Islanders win. And look, when you're playing the Dallas Stars, who are in the Western Conference, it doesn't matter one iota to the Islanders that the Stars also got a point in this game. It doesn't matter. The Islanders got 2. And, it is great to see them get 2 points, and they needed 2 points. And look, the playoff race is not going to be easy. We know that. This team doesn't have a lot of games against, easy teams these days, but getting 2 points against Dallas, a team that is in first place in the Central Division, a big boost for the New York Islanders. We've got more to get to on today's show. We'll have our hero and GOAT of the game. We'll also discuss some of the things the Islanders still need to improve upon that are just, again, problematic in, the performance of this team. Although I am pleased overall, I'm seeing baby steps from this team. Then for our Islanders birthday of the day, a checking forward who was with the Islanders in the early 2000 teens. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and a whole lot more still coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, Islander fans, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is to pick whether studs like Bo Horvat, Alexander Ovechkin, or Nathan McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL, one word. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Special teams, still a big problem for the Islanders. Good news, the Islanders stayed out of the penalty box. They only had the Stars only had one power play in the game. Ryan Pollock off for interference in the early part of the second period. The bad news is that, yes, the result of that one power play opportunity for the Dallas Stars was a goal by Matt Duchene. So the Islanders penalty kill allowed one goal in one chance. Now, again, because the Islanders were able to minimize the power play chances, they were able to still get the win. But you gotta, if this team wants to hope to make the postseason, they have got to get their penalty kill at least respectable for the rest of the season. The ranking for the overall season is not going to be very high. But you got to at least be respectable the rest of the way. The other area that struggled, in my estimation, was the power play. And the Islanders did not score on the power play. And not only did they not score, but, at one point they had a 5-on-3 for about 30 seconds, could not convert. And then on the rest of that power play, it was the Dallas Stars who had at least 2 really good shorthanded chances, and it was only the strong goaltending of Ilya Sorokin that prevented Dallas from scoring while the Islanders had the extra attacker. And again, I don't expect every 5-on-3 or every power play to result in goals or even to result in multiple high quality scoring chances. You want that. You want to come as close to that as possible, but obviously it's not guaranteed. But what you cannot have is that when you're on the power play, the other team has better scoring chances than you do. And that is largely what we ended up seeing against the Dallas Stars. One other thing I wanted to make note of, and it's just an observation, and it kind of cuts both ways. The Islanders did a better job overall, first of all, before I get to that, of limiting the shots on goal and the high quality danger chances. And the Islanders had some bad puck luck. Brock Nelson hit the far post on a shot that he probably makes 7 out of 10 times. There were some bad bounces and what have you. But, one other thing about Patrick Waugh, and I get it, he leans on his top guys. Noah Dobson, 26 minutes, 5 seconds of ice time in this game. Mathew Barzal, 25-17. Bo Horvat, 25-07. Brock Nelson, 22-28. Then you go to the fourth line, 7 minutes and 27 seconds for Kyle McLean. And Matt Martin and Cal Clutterbuck, just a little over 8 minutes of ice time. Again, I totally get it. You want your best players out on the ice more. That's why they're on the first line. That's why they also get, top minutes on the power play. But you got to be careful about overusing them, wearing them down, and tiring them out. So hopefully we see that Bo, Barzy, and Brock, the 3 Bs, are equal to the task of playing all these minutes. You don't want to wear your team out. As far as the hero and GOAT of the game, the hero of the game, in my mind, has got to be Bo Horvat for the game winner. Ryan Pollock and Mathew Barzal close second and third. But that game-winning goal, so dramatic. Add the fact that Bo had 7 shots on goal, even blocked a shot when he was out there on the ice. So to me, Bo Horvat has got to be the hero of the game. And, if I had to have a GOAT of the game, J.G. Pageau, to me, he had a really bad giveaway that Rupe Hintz almost turned into a breakaway goal. But again, Ilya Sorokin bailed him out. Pageau's line with Lee and Palmieri -1 across the board. And it just wasn't a great game for that third line. Now they're the second line. But again, hopefully with a little more ice time together and a little more familiarity, that group can get some more chemistry and improve. I love this top line, but I am really concerned about the lack of depth. And that could be even more exposed when you have all 3 of your best players playing together on line 1. Sebastian Aho back in the game. Again, he was a +1, only played 16 minutes, but didn't play badly. And again, Oliver Wahlstrom, as we mentioned on yesterday's show, back in the press box. You got to figure Wally is not in the Islanders' future plans going forward. And, if Lou Lamoriello can move him for anything at the trade deadline, I would not be surprised. If they get a 7th round pick or just cap relief or a prospect, not even a highly regarded prospect, I just don't see right now that Oliver Wahlstrom would have a lot of trade value. But as a favor to Wally, and because you're going to lose him for nothing in the offseason, assuming that the Islanders don't want to re-sign him, then, that's what we're going to see. So Wahlstrom, again, riding the pine up in the press box. I really was pulling for him, but again, Patrick Waugh does not seem to have a place for him in this lineup. We have got more to get to on today's show. Some articles out there that the Islanders have been getting some calls about the possible availability of Brock Nelson. We'll talk about what that means and whether or not he's actually possibly going to be traded at the deadline. We'll have that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Camino Consulting. Our sponsor is Camino, and you've heard about their online families and couples course and taken advantage of the Locked On 25% discount running to the end of the month. But what about the live seminars? In both sport and business, the challenge in differentiating candidates and recruits is an endless battle. Everyone can demonstrate their measurables and qualifications, but we all know it's the intangibles that matter when those things are similar. Well, Contact Camino Consulting for their team and management seminars to get a peek behind the curtain and watch your next recruiting class or hiring group become one of the most effective you've ever seen. Because you identified the right candidates and because you learned how to communicate and motivate them according to their own preferences. But you aren't in business management. If you're not there or not working with a team, well, we pay referrals. Make some money making your workplace and favorite teams better. Every group works together better at the end of year one than at week one. So contact Camino Consulting at caminoconsulting.ca and get on the fast track to understanding. That's Camino Consulting CA. Check it out today. Locked On has launched the first ever 24/7 national sports streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Article in the hockey news and some rumors out there that the Islanders were fielding inquiries, not that they were shopping Brock Nelson, but that they were getting some calls, people inquiring, other GMs interested in the possibility of acquiring Brock Nelson. And I'll be honest with you, there are reasons that it would make sense for the Islanders to trade Brock Nelson. He, out of all the players with high cap hit contracts, probably has the most value. He's already got 25 goals this year. He's going to probably, barring injury, top 30 for the third straight year, probably even going to top 35. But let's face it, the Islanders are a long shot to make the playoffs. As of yesterday, there was less than a 20% chance of making the postseason, according to the computer models. And you could free up $6 million in cap space for next year, probably get a first-round pick and another pick and or a prospect and start your retool/rebuild. And everydayers, you know, that is probably, in my opinion, the best move the Islanders can make. Not necessarily to trade Nelson, but to do the retool/rebuild. And if you're going to identify the core of the Islanders, you have Bo Horvat, Mathew Barzal, you have Ilya Sorokin, you have Noah Dobson and probably Alexander Romanov. Maybe Pelech or Polak would also be included in that group. But after that, this team lacks speed. They lack skill. You simply have to look at the roster right now. And, you know, what I said in the first segment about the fact that the bottom 9 forwards had less shots than the top 3 in this game. And, you know, there's just no scoring depth. I think the Islanders basically have 3 top 6 forwards on their roster, and they're all on the same line. So if this team isn't good enough to make the playoffs, and they've got an aging roster, it makes sense that the Islanders should start to try to replenish a prospect pool that is rated as near last or last in the NHL, where you have a team that hasn't made a first-round pick in 5 years. You know, it makes sense that other GMs, seeing that the Islanders are long shots to make the playoffs, would ask Lou Lamoriello, hey, what would it take to get Brock Nelson from you? The problem is this. Lou Lamoriello, at least publicly, and it seems by his actions, still believes in this core. Lou Lamoriello wants to win now. He's 81 years old, and whether or not that has anything to do with his desire to win now, or he just always feels like that's the right thing to do, that's his MO. And you don't have to trade Brock Nelson to do the rebuild or the retool. But Nelson would get you the most in a trade. And because there's a year left on his contract, he will also, you're not going to sign. Are you really going to sign Brock Nelson to a 7-year extension or a 5-year extension next year when he's even a year older? It seems to me that his value will never be higher than it is right now. And, if you're going to trade him and do the rebuild thing, this is kind of the time to do it. He's 32 years old. He's going to be 33 next year, unless he's willing to sign a 2 or 3 year contract to stay. If you know this team needs to retool, that's your best asset to try to move. But I just don't see Lou doing it. And remember, the article said that other teams had inquired, not that Lou Lamoriello was shopping him. It also would make sense to try to trade guys like Kyle Palmieri and J.G. Pageau, even though all three, Nelson, Pageau, Palmieri, they have modified no trade clauses. But, this team does need a reset. But Lou Lamoriello doesn't seem to see it or want to do it. And if he's stuck in win now mode to just try to get to 8th place and then hope to get hot at the right time, that is not a sound strategy for the long run for this hockey team. I'm not saying trade Brock Nelson, but I'm not saying ignore the possibility of trading Brock Nelson. If somebody overwhelms you with an offer and this team isn't going to make the playoffs or is very, very unlikely, why not go for it? Why not start the reset or the retool so that you're not facing 5 or 6 years of bottom play, the bottom of the standings finishes? Maybe you could do it in 1 or 2 years of bottom of the standings finishes and make a quick retool. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And basically Monday was the 47th birthday of former Islanders center Marty Reasoner. He was born in Honio Falls, New York. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. First round pick of the Blues back in 1996. Spent 3 years at Boston College before joining the Blues in the 98-99 season. Then played for Edmonton and Boston and the Atlanta Thrashers and the Florida Panthers. But he finished his career in the NHL with the Islanders. Played with the Islanders in 2011, 2012, and 2012, 2013. Played 92 games for the Isles, had 1 goal and 11 points, 38 penalty minutes. By the time he reached the island, he was very much a defense-first kind of a guy. Never scored more than 14 goals in a single season. So, goal scoring was not the reason he was in the NHL, but he was a reliable two-way forward. Looking at one of his better games as an Islander, it's pretty easy. March 29th, 2012, Islanders hosting the Penguins at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Marc-Andre Fleury, the goalie for the Pens. Al Montoya, Il Cubano, the goalie for the Islanders. Marty Reasoner opens the scoring, the only goal of the first period. Mark Streit and Josh Bailey with the assist. That made it 1-0 Islanders. They went on to win this game by a score of 5-3. That was the only goal Marty Reasoner scored as an Islander. And he had 2 shots on goal and was on ice for 11 minutes, 32 seconds in the game. Al Montoya, 26 saves to get the win, but this was a bigger game for Josh Bailey. 2 goals, 3 assists, a 5-point night, including a shorty for Bales. But for Marty Reasoner, the last goal of his NHL career, that was his 97th goal and his only goal as an Islander. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we will have our farm report talking about all things Bridgeport Islanders. We will answer some of your emails, so please get those emails in. I've got a couple, but I'd love to have a couple more. And we are going to have the latest injury updates and a little something on the power play. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.